To the Springs Cleanse, Body, Mind, and Soul here at the Weight Cheese Center and Shop at 57 Wingate Street, Haverhill, Mass. If you're going, why is he giving me the address? I'm already sitting here because I'm going to be recorded live at IPM Nation. We want to welcome our IMP Nation at IPMNation.com. We welcome. They come and tape our events. This is Frank and Frack. Say hi, Frack.
Which one's who's who?
If you don't know, that sounds like a personal problem, doesn't it?
I'll be Frack.
You'll be Frack. Say hello. Say hello, Frack. Say hello, Frick.
Hello.
Hello. So, anyways, my name is Dr. Kevin Ross Emery. I am, I guess, kind of sort of considered the founder of the center or something. It was lost. It was walking away. It was walking around the streets of Haverhill saying, I need to I need to live here. And so we brought it here, and this is where we've launched it. This is part of an extension of the Wei Qi system of natural healing, Wei Qi as a concept, and I will be talking later today about who and what is Wei Qi. Following this presentation, there is going to be one on cleansing herbs, and we have a whole list of things coming up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in my talk. Oh, and I just got the high sign to let people know that if they have not and would be interested in spending a 3-hour cruise, dinner, and party with me, with Dr. Kevin, they're raffling me off. I knew it was going to come to this sooner or later. Just want to let you know, it's aboard the new yacht, the Marika, out of Boston Harbor. We sit at a table, we talk, and have dinner. There are raffle tickets out there. We're going to be doing the raffle. We're going to be setting a date depending on who the winners are for this summer to go around the Marika. And it tells me that after dinner we're going to do dancing, and I'm going to show you how to swivel the sacral, strut the solar plexus, and touch the third eye to the ground. So if you're looking for a spiritually enlightened and physically exhausting time, come spend 3 hours with me on the Marika. What? Price? Oh, I don't know. What's the price? It's $1 for one or $5 for an arm length. There's the length of his arm. Now, if you find somebody else that does it and their arm's not as long, you have to go grab him. You get more tickets, you get more chances. I know you'll be getting your tickets before you leave. You wanna swivel your sacral with me?
We're all over swiveling.
Great. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started on how to raise a self-aware child. And I want to do this very simple because things oftentimes do get complicated. How many people here have read any kind of book because they wanted to learn how to be a better parent, or they even just wanted to parent themselves better? You read a book, an article, looked out there. Who remembers Dr. Spock? Benjamin Spock. He gave you some ideas. There's been different gurus. It used to be, we had a mentality once upon a time that if you just smacked them around, that was good. And then we decided you couldn't smack them around physically. So then you get to smack them around verbally. Then we decided that wasn't good. And now you get to the point where a lot of times you end up with kids who are smacking you around, and it's okay because they're underage and they can't be arrested for it, and you have to kind of go, something went wrong here. When did I stop being the parent? When did I stop being the adult? Or why did my child become an adult? I've been working with children in my practice for almost 21 years as part of my practice. It's never been the sole focus of my practice because nothing is ever the sole focus of my practice, just so you know. And in the last several years, I've done a lot of work with ADHD children. I do have a book out on it, and we'll be talking about ADHD, the ADHD phenomenon and the gift of it, because my book is Managing the Gift. Tomorrow, I'll be speaking on that as well. But I've had a lot of experience working with children, setting up and down communication, how to make families work, things like this. And there are always a few different things that happen or come out of this. And so I'm going to give you something. I like these little things that we create to remember. And the first thing that we want to do, if we want to raise a self-aware child, is we have to honor the child. First of all, we have to honor the child, and I say honor because, I went back and forth with this word because honor means 2 or 3 different things. But in this case, honor is recognizing the child. And honor is a recognition of something. We recognize somebody for something. We want to recognize that child. We want to recognize them as a unique individual. One of the problems that we end up having, whether we realize it or not, one of the things that we will do is we keep on seeing how are they like us and how are they like their other parent. Or they're like this aunt, or they're like this grandmother. They're like all these other people, but they're not. And we have to start by honoring them, recognizing them, and really saying, you know, there are probably a couple million people out that share that quality like I have. It's not like I'm the only one who likes to read. Oh, look, they like to read, they're just like you. No, they're not just like you. And you don't want them to think that they're supposed to be just like you. You don't want them to think that they get rewarded, that they get, you know, somehow extra attention or it's a celebration because they're just like mommy or they're just like daddy. You want them to be honored for being their own. Oh, you and I share that interest. Not you got that from me. Come on in. We're talking about raising a self-aware child. We just started with honor. You missed who I am, but you can catch that up later. But in honoring that child is recognizing them as a unique thing. And it's not saying you are like me. It's saying you and I share this. You and I come together on this point. And so that's something that we can do together. That's a place, because you know what? That's what people do. People spend time with people that they share common interests with. And so you spend some time with mommy, and you spend some time with daddy, and you spend some time with an older sibling, or sometimes with your friends, or things like this, because there are things that you share, and that there are things that interest or come back and forth between each other, where you feel like you are enjoying this person because maybe they're doing something that you wouldn't think of doing, and they help you grow, but you want to honor them, and you want to honor their uniqueness. And you want to let them know that they're not supposed to be mini-me's. Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh, yes.
So the very first step is to really honor them and separate them out as not an extension of you. As soon as your child feels like they're an extension of you, then they also end up getting tied up in all your victories and all your not so great moments. Do you really want the child to bear the responsibility of the adult? No. You want them to be children, and you want them to grow up into adults, but you don't want them to feel like somehow they're good when you're having a good day and they're bad when you're having a bad day. And please, in the honoring process of children, bite your tongue until it bleeds before you ever say to a child when they've done something bad, you're just like your father, you're just like your mother, you're just like somebody else, because what you're doing is you're robbing their uniqueness. You're making them, again, other than who they are. The next one that we're going to do is engage. We want to engage our child. A lot of times it's very interesting. Children get talked at. Children get talked to. Obviously, you have to say, you're going to have a little different conversation if you're talking to a child who's standing this tall. It's just a little, but you're still engaging them. You're not having to tell them, you engage them. You include them as much as possible. You always, if you want to raise a self-aware child, you need to also engage them in their world and their responsibility in their world. And that responsibility needs to be growing every day as they grow. You don't want to push them past a responsibility. You don't want to set them up for failure. You don't want to make them responsible for something they're not ready for. And the first thing you want to throw out is this whole model that's still popular. By 2, they need to be doing this. By 3, they're normal and average if they're doing that. By 4, no. Throw that book away. Get rid of it. If you have a fireplace, use it as kindling. Okay? children as unique individual kids. There are a lot of kids. I've had kids that were brought to me and they're like, they didn't really start talking until they were 3 or 4. And of course, again, I do work with all kinds of children. I've done work with all kinds of children, but especially the ADD, ADHD children. It's not uncommon. They may not start talking until they're 3 or 4. The reason why they may not start talking, it's not because they can't, or they only give out little tiny phrases like, well, when are you going to do sentences? They go from little phrases to paragraphs. Suddenly one day, and they'll be suddenly talking paragraphs to you. Why? Because they've been waiting to learn enough words to express what's going on in their head. And until that, they talk very stintedly. I've seen cases where they thought that kids were, really had some kind of a mental or emotional disability or problem that woke up one day and started talking like Einstein. But wait a second, they're not on the schedule of the book or the pediatrician. They're not normal. In engaging your child, you're really learning who they are and what's their rhythm. Do they really see, it's like, well, they look bright. Well, they probably are, but they may not be fitting your idea of bright or your idea of how they should be moving in the world. So when you are engaging that child, you want to be really, oh, okay, so you saw pink fairies flying around the house last night. Were they scary? Were they fun? Did they want to play with you? Pink fairies don't exist. They can't be flying around the house. Slap that parent. See, it's not child abuse if I tell you to slap the parent. If I tell you to slap the child, I'm in trouble. No. But when we engage, we have to engage in their rich inner life. We want to understand. And we want that child to never be afraid to share something with us because we're going to judge them, because we're going to criticize them. I've had kids through the years, and I don't mean 1 or 2, I mean a good number that have gone along the way where they'll share something with me and say, look, you ever told your mom or your dad? They wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand. They'd have a connection. Okay, so if your child is starting to edit on what they think your capacity is of dealing with them, you're making them more of the adult than you're being. Your child should be able to tell you anything without you getting upset with them to the point where they don't feel like they can share with you. You can engage them and say, well, we might want to talk about that. Or, and I'm going to get to, some behavior, how I teach all my parents to do behavior work with their children. But when you engage them, when you get them and you get them to talk about the pink fairies, or what are they seeing, or what are they thinking, when you encourage them, that's really exciting. That's really, And of course, one of the things, and we were talking, and I was hoping to have it ready by this weekend, and it didn't happen. Thank you very much, Mercury retrograde, for any of my astrology fans out there. Is we really want to be running some classes this summer for children through here. And one of them is that I've been teaching off and on for years is working with your psychic child. The children that come in are so intuitively geared. They don't know that they're not supposed to be able to see fairies. They don't know they're not supposed to be able to see auras or see energy. They don't know that they're not supposed to know things that they weren't told, that they just know them. They don't know that they're not supposed to tell you because it upsets you when the phone's ringing to say, oh, can I talk to Grammy? And you pick it up and it's your mother. And they don't know that that's upsetting you, that they knew who was on the phone. Okay? And you go, oh, it was just a lucky guess. Yeah, all 10 times they've done it. We want to honor and get them to talk about it. And they will, in their way, in their stories, in their symbologies, in how they're describing things. I had a child in here a couple of months ago, and the child is very artistic, and he took this whole whiteboard, and I had him draw his world for me. He drew his whole world for me. I love, you should see my collection of pens. I love all the colors, and I think it's important. So I've got, every color of Expo marker you can find, dry erase marker. And he drew this lovely world, but he drew some problems in the world. And we just kind of talked about it. And then he was willing to share the world with his mother, and he shared the world with his mother, and he, you know, and she was just, she walked away, she goes, I had no idea. I had no idea that this made him feel that way or whatever. But he knew that whatever he drew on that board, I was going to think was fabulous. Whatever he drew on the board was fabulous. And all I wanted him to do was teach me about his world. And he couldn't fail to teach me about his world. There was no expectations of, you're getting graded on this. Was your penmanship nice enough? Did you spell the word correctly? Did you put a period and a comma in the right place? No. Just teach me about your world. Engage that child. And engage that child from a total place of acceptance. That whatever they're saying is their reality. And if it's a reality that doesn't fit with your reality or the reality of the world, you're only going to find out why by engaging it. If you think that you can change it by saying it's not so, no. You're raising a robot, not a self-aware child. You're trying to raise somebody like you may have been raised to fit in, look good, polish up nice, and oh, here's another "don't make me shoot you" phrase, which is a phrase that if I catch you using with your parents, I'm going to have to shoot you, and then of course they're going to want to take me away to jail. As parents, I don't want to see you use is "make me proud." How does that look on me? How do you think it makes me look when you do that? It makes me look bad when you act up in the grocery store. Do you want to take any responsibility for parenting here? If they're acting up in a grocery store, there's probably a reason. Did you stop and find out why? Are they tired? Did you miss their nap? Did you let them eat a bad diet? Not that that ever happens in today's society. Did you forget what your responsibilities were as a parent that you're having a child? And do you think that that child wants to hear that you make them look bad? Because what you're doing is you're making your love conditional. That child is going to start hiding things from you. That child is going to start disliking themselves. They're going to dislike themselves, that they have somehow failed you, or they're not a good child, or something is wrong with them. I used to say I'm the world's worst speller, but I've actually met people that are worse, but I always have to stop and think. Because I'm so anxious to say and talk that somehow missing a letter here or there doesn't make any difference to me, as long as people can understand what it says. In fact, I used to say that when I write on the board. I'm like, if you know what it means, don't bother to correct my spelling. I don't care what it's spelled like, as long as you get the point. Now you see why I get along with kids so well, right? Accountability. There is a piece of accountability. Obviously, one of the places that we are in this generation, the last couple of generations, the couple of places where we have been failing our children is teaching them enough accountability about how to be successful out there in the world. How do we get these children to be successful out there in the world? It isn't by thinking that mommy and daddy are going to solve all the problems. It isn't by putting out there that they have no ownership in the reality they're creating. They have to have ownership in their reality. And we have to teach them that. I work with all my parents on a very I'm going to get rid of these books. I didn't want you to read them anyways. That was book 2, 3, and 4 on parenting. On the accountability. I teach all my parents you should ever only talk about action and consequences. Eliminate the word punishment and eliminate the word reward. We don't want punishment and reward because it ties into I'm good or I'm bad. And I'm good and I'm bad goes in and ties into self-worth and self-esteem issues. You want to be able to say, oh, you're good, you're bad, get a dog. Because they don't really understand what you're saying. Good dog, bad dog. A child does. If you don't think that you have the patience and the ability to center yourself and never reprimand your child for something that they have done in anger, then get a dog. Don't have a child. Now, are we going to lose our patience? Sure, we're going to lose our patience. What do you think the one most important thing to do is when you've lost your patience with your child? What's the one most important thing to do? Apologize. You should always apologize to your child if you lose your temper. Your job as the adult is not to lose your temper at your child. Your job is to take a deep breath and you say, I'm not going to pretend this makes me happy, but we're going to talk about this later. I want to think about what's happened here, and then we're going to sit down a little bit, and I want you to be prepared to talk about for us to talk about what you were thinking when you did this, and then we're going to put it together. This doesn't change that I love you, and I'm your parent, and I care about you, and I'm here for you, but we need to talk about this action, and we're not going to do it right now. Because if we did, I would probably yell and scream at you, and it would be completely inappropriate. Never be afraid to tell your child that you're human, as they can understand it. Obviously, telling a 5-year-old is a little different than telling a 15-year-old. The 15-year-olds that I've met that still respect their parents are the parents who would not let them put themselves on an altar, that would not let themselves be put in a place where they were considered, in the early part of the kid's childhood, that they were some kind of little demigod who could never make a mistake and everything they did was perfect. It was the children who are teenagers. Everybody says, oh, well, now they're teenagers, so they have to disrespect you, and they can't talk to you, and they have to hide everything, and of course they're going to be horrible. No! Not true. Not true. They're going to have some horrible times going through puberty because it's the nature of going through puberty. There are hormonal things that go on. But they don't have to shut you out of it if they have always seen you as human, approachable, accepting, and unconditional, yet still setting boundaries and structure. During those difficult teenage years, those kids absolutely have to know that you're the safety net, that you're not going to let them take the step that will negatively affect them the rest of their life, that will leave them with a criminal record, or will leave them in a wheelchair, or are going to leave them with something that they don't want to deal with. That's your job as parents. You have to know when you draw that hard line that says no. And sometimes they have to push for you to draw the hard line, so they know that you'll say no, and you haven't just kind of said, yeah, you're kind of on your own. But if they know you're human, if you own your own mistakes, if you apologize, if you have been engaging, if you have always supported and promoted their uniqueness, their life, if you have done these things for this child, when they are starting to struggle, and they're 12 and 13 and 14, and they're trying to discover their own individual personal selves and personal natures, when that happens, they will talk to you. They won't feel like they have to hide with you. And now we go back to action and consequences. You want to start at a very young age with very simple things. Take a light, warm summer day where it's raining a little bit, and you take the child out, and you say, okay, here's an umbrella. We're going to go out with an umbrella. What happens? If we get a little damp, we get a little wet. The action was we took the umbrella, but we're basically dry. Action, I didn't take an umbrella. I got wet. There was the action, there was a consequence. You went out without an umbrella, you got wet. Now, there is an action that if you go out in the summer without an umbrella and you get wet, it may not be a big deal, except you're wearing something that's ruined and you may not get a new one. You go out in the winter or the ice rain and you get a cold. You remember the last time you got a cold? You didn't like having a cold, did you? Remember, you're all sniffy and you just keep on reminding them, this action leads to this consequence. Because that is how life is based. As adults, we learn to function and we learn to choose the risks we want to take, and you have to teach your children to be risk takers, but also to be willing to pay the price of the risk. Who here, you better not raise your hand, who here has ever sped on the freeway going over the speed limit? Come on. Is everybody telling, the ones whose hands aren't raised telling me that they've never gone over the 55 speed limit?
Oh, maybe a little bit.
57, 59, come on,
Yeah,
okay. I took an action, I took a risk. The consequences is I could get a ticket. When I get a ticket, I don't get to say that the police officer was horrible, that the state was horrible because this road should have been more. I'm not going to display to my child my own child irrational, I broke a law and got caught and it's got to be somebody else's fault, because then that teaches your child, well, when I get caught red-handed, I'm going to do something I mean done. Well, it really wasn't my fault. It really wasn't my fault that you told me to be home at 9 o'clock and I didn't come home 10. You know, the car broke down and the dog really wanted to play outside and this happened and that happened, and I have no responsibility for it. Just like you had no responsibility when you got fired because you went on a 4-day bender and, you know, and passed out drunk and didn't call into work for 3 days and got fired. It wasn't your fault. It was the boss's fault. The boss never liked you anyways. It didn't make any difference that you know, whatever. If you show irresponsibility to your child will be irresponsible. Or they will be overly responsible. And I'm going to spend the next 20 years with your child in therapy. With me, trying to recover from you as a parent. Because, well, they'll spend 5 or 6 years of thinking that they have to be responsible for everybody else until they have a nervous breakdown because they realize they can't be responsible for everybody else. And they can't make everything right for everybody else. And they can't do it for everybody else. And where did they learn that? They learned that because either you role modeled it or you made that child be an adult because you were irresponsible. So you have to show them that you're accountable. And again, you want to go back to engage that child so that child knows that you are a person. You are a person. You're not perfect. You make mistakes. You have bad moments. You have bad days. You apologize and own them when you have bad days. You engage them and do not judge what they tell you. And when you go into the accountability phase, when something happens, instead of blaming everything else, it was the stars, it was the neighbors, it was your mother's fault, it was your father's fault, it was my mother's fault. Let's face it, what's the universal truth? We all blame the problem was our mother, right? Our mother is at the seat of all everything that ever happened wrong and bad to us. Who came up with that theory? A man, of course. Always have to appreciate that, right? A woman didn't come up with that theory. But in that is sometimes use your own life and make conscious in your child and in yourself, because you will be a better person for it. You know, I did this, and I knew what the risk was, and I got nabbed. And now, I'm probably not going to do it again. I'm really not loving this $85 speeding ticket. But take ownership with your child about your own actions. Your child will respect that. And they'll also see, yeah, that is how the world works. So many children go out into the world as young adults, and they really have no clue that their actions lead to that their actions lead to certain consequences, because so much was managed for them, or they were so over-controlled or told without them developing the critical thinking skills of how to be out in the world in a successful way. Critical thinking skills are so important to being a happy adult. And all we want for our children is for them to be who they are. Which means we have to honor their uniqueness, stop telling them how they're like us, or how somehow our value is based on how good they do. We have to engage them so we really know who they are and recognize that they are totally unique. They are not a mini me, or they're not a mini my spouse. They're not a mini anyone. And we have to teach them how to be accountable in the world. And then we have to respect them. We keep on having to teach them to make choices, and then we have to allow them to fall down, scrape their knee, bruise themselves occasionally, take some bad actions, and implement consequences. But it's not punishment. In engaging that child and creating accountability, I have the list of things on the refrigerator sometimes. I will, I remember working with one, she was a single mother, and she had twins that were becoming, and she was basically solo parenting. The father lived 1,500 miles, 2,000 miles away. So he wasn't showing up 3 days a week to do any, help around the house type of stuff. And, and she had a set of twins, a boy and a girl, who were obviously becoming teenagers at the same time. And, they were doing a lot of acting out, and they were running the house. Because she just didn't feel like she could. But she wasn't consistent. One of the first thing we did was, it was like, okay, being part of this family requires certain actions. There's 3 of us. There are things that I need you to do around the house. The action of not doing it, this is the consequence. And I actually worked it up, and for this household it worked, that it was like, you are buying time on the computer. I'm giving you credit for your chores, which buys you time on the computer. Because when I go to work, I get a paycheck, which allows me to pay the electric bill. I'm using real life examples, because guess what? Someday they're going to have to go out and pay an electric bill. Someday they're going to have to show up at a job and have a check. And as soon as this kid is 9 or 10 years old, you want to start putting into them. This is how the world works. The world is, I'm going to give you credit towards things. Grades are credits. Chores are credits. Depending on the kind of child you have and who you are, this particular woman, she needed it very structured. We sat down, and on the refrigerator was posted a list. This earns you this earns you this. She said to me, well, computer time is a big thing. I have no way to really enforce it. It's out there. I went and did a house visit. I bought a lock, a thing, and the computers got locked in the closet, just the computer cords, so there was no way for them to go on. Guess what? They started earning a lot of credits. But it made them more responsible. But they said, oh, I can't believe you're punishing. I'm not punishing you. You're paying for your share of the electricity by taking the trash out. That's all. I'm not punishing you. I'm not rewarding you. You're being compensated for your participation in this family. This family makes decisions based on the fact that if you get better grades in school, you're going to have more choices to the life you have as an adult and the schooling you go into. But it was all actions and consequences. And it was never about who they as a person were, that they were bad or wrong or good. Both are equally damaging. Because if you teach somebody that their actions make them, that makes them good, then they're going to go, that these actions make me bad. And then you have to respect them and say, okay, I'm going to keep on giving you a little bit more responsibility, and I'm going to respect you. And I'm going to give you that respect unless you do something that makes me need to pull back, but that's an action and consequence statement. I'm going to respect that you get to have a choice. And as soon as children are figuring out who their individuality is, I don't care. 9-year-old says, I really want blue hair. Okay, honey, you can have blue hair. It's going to rinse out. I'm not going to do permanent dye on you. Go ahead and have blue hair. She or he needs the experience. The friends may think it's cool. They may get laughed at. They needed the experience. Guess what? You say you can't have blue hair until you move out of this house. You'll be a blue hair before they move out of this house because they will punish you for those other 9 years, between 9 and 18. They will make you pay that you didn't allow them and respect them enough to say, does it hurt them to have blue hair? No. Now, if they're struggling with anorexia or bulimia, well, that's a different issue. But that's because they are having power issues, and that's what they are. Self-mutilation, okay, cutting, anorexia, bulimia, teenage suicide, powerlessness, cries for help. I feel like I have no power in my life. I can't get heard, I can't get seen, I can't be me. Everybody has all of this control over me. What can I do? What can I do? I can take a knife and cut myself. Because I'm in so much pain. And I do not care what you ever say over and over again to a child. If you're not in actions, role modeling it, and doing it in interactions with them, they're going to take up on your role modeling. I had this woman that I worked with, and she had come from quite an abusive background herself, abusive marriage, raised abused, stuff like this, had really not taken care of herself, had health issues, was very large, didn't really care about how she looked, but she kept on telling her daughter how beautiful and how good the daughter was, and how bright, and how the daughter was everything she wasn't. 11 o'clock at night, I got the call. My daughter just tried to kill herself. She's in the hospital. Will you go talk to her? And actually, interestingly enough, I was the only person the daughter would talk to. She wouldn't talk to anybody else. But I said to the woman, she goes, I told her all the right things. I said, yeah, but you allowed yourself to be a punching bag. You're still self-abusive, and we're working on it. You're role modeling to her that basically you're a piece of shit. And how can a child think they're anything else but a turd if their parent is a piece of shit? So respect is you got to respect them, and you got to respect yourself. If you're not walking in a way that says, I love myself, I'm a good person, I have bad days. I get to have bad days. I get to be human. I get to have you really irritate me with something you said. In fact, I know you said it just to irritate me because you knew that you weren't going to get something you wanted because maybe, you didn't earn the credits. Well, honey, that's life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you didn't choose to earn the credits. See how different that language is? Honey, I'm sorry that you didn't chose to go home, hang out on Facebook, hang out on the cell phone, not do the credits that was going to allow you to do that. I'm really sorry. If I didn't go into work today and I didn't have a paycheck, I couldn't go out to dinner on Friday night. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go out to dinner on Friday night. That's all. So it's okay. And next week, when you want to do that, when you earn the credits, you can. And that will be really great. So what do you think you should do with your time because you didn't earn the credits? Guess what, guys? That's empowering. That's empowering to that child. The child might not like it. They're going to grumble. We've all been told things that we know that we didn't want to hear, that we were like, okay. But when we became more self-aware as people, when we became more self-responsible, and we moved forward more in our own lives, we appreciated that guidance. We appreciated the person that would not let us slide. Because when we slide, sooner or later, in the middle of that slide, we fall down. We get banged up. There are reasons that things are in place. So, I used to teach a class, actually, my first 12 years were spent in corporate, and then I've spent the last almost 21 taking people on what I call their journey to greatness. And in that, I used to actually, in the corporate world, I used to teach a class to salespeople and managers, stuff like this, called the Art of Communication. And part of the art of communication is that 3/4 of all successful communication is listening. Hearing who your child is, hearing what they're really trying to say in a language that they're comfortable saying it, hearing what their needs are, even when they don't know how to express them. And then when you communicate, they know that you heard them. They know that you heard them. They know that they feel safer. They feel better guided. And yeah, they're going to have a bad moment too. They're going to have some bad days, and they are going to be a teenager, and they're going to have social pressures, and they're going to have all sorts of stuff. What they need to not have to do is figure out how to manipulate, manage, and edit to their parents because they can't count on them being there because their parents are going to be so quick to judge, to yell, to scream, to punish, to make them feel bad about they were just being kids. But they still need to be held accountable. And there is that. So, you want to raise a more self-aware child? Use the HEAR method. Hear them. Honor, engage, help them learn accountability, and then hold them to it and respect them. I hope you found this helpful. We have lots of other stuff going on today. We have lots of services being offered. We'd like to make sure you're all on our mailing list, and we've got lots of exciting things coming up. We will have somebody that's going to be talking in about 15 minutes or so on, and I'm gonna make sure I get this right. It is cleansing and detoxing with herbs. At 1 o'clock, we have a moving meditation. 2, healing through tarot. I'll be back on at 3 for Who is What is Wei Qi. And then we have magnetic therapy, healing power of mediumship, and animals in your mental and emotional health today. And then on Sunday, we have another whole lineup, and you can get those flyers outside. Again, thank you for coming, and I hope you found this helpful.